radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Wednesday, December 29th, 2021. 362 days into the new year. Only 3 days left. Let's do this, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer, and UnX Networks, I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. We finally made it. Because tonight, continuing our New Year's week here on Fade to Black, we have a very special guest, and he's our last guest of 2021, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. And that's how it should be. Tomorrow night is our last show of the year, and it's also a fader night, which means open lines all night long. Tomorrow, last show of the year, the day before New Year's Eve. It's going to be a great way to celebrate. I'll be doing that with all of you tomorrow night. Maybe I'll break out some vodka. Maybe I'll break out some champagne, drink live on the air. I've never done that. I've never drank on the air. Never smoked on the air. Never did any of that stuff on the air. One of these days. Vape some DMT live. All right. Tonight it's Richard Dolan. And what an amazing year it has been. This coffee is for you. What an amazing year. And I can't think of a better way to close things out with Richard Dolan for our last guest of 2021. And it's a busy night here on the show. I was just over in YouTube. I said I pounded a gallon of River Moon coffee to get ready for the show tonight. So there you go. Also, I was talking to Richard a few minutes ago, and he's doing the two biggest shows in the same night. He's doing Fade to Black, of course, and then right after that, he's rolling over to Coast AM. He has got a long night in front of him. Plus, I'm glad we've got him first, but he's on the East Coast, man. That Coast to Coast ain't nothing nice when you're on the East Coast. That's 1 a.m. That's 1 a.m. in New York. 1 till 3. Oh, man. Richard's going to be tore up tomorrow. I'm going to call him first thing in the morning. How you doing, man? What's going on? I'm up. I'm fresh. How you doing? All right. Yeah, Richard, man. Unbelievable. What a great night for him. All right. Follow me on Twitter at J Church Radio. On the East Coast, we will be ringing in the new year with you and the Faders. Is that right? Is that how that works? How East Coast are you? You'd have to be way east, I would think. Follow me on Twitter at J Church Radio. At J Church Radio. Follow me right there. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. We don't bite. Hello to everybody that's watching and listening all around the world, wherever you are right now. Any questions for the show tonight? And I'll try to squeeze those in for Richard. Plug those in at hashtag F2BQ. All right. Let's get to the breaking news. This broke right before the show tonight. A jury in a New York federal court has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty on 5 of 6 counts related to her role in Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse of minor girls between 1994 and 2004. She was found guilty of 5 federal charges: sex trafficking of a minor, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, and 3 related accounts of conspiracy. Maxwell, who now faces up to 65 years in prison, showed absolutely no reaction when the verdicts were read. Judge Allison Nathan did not set a sentencing date. Wow. Elon Musk back in the news, because Elon has offloaded the final batch of Tesla stock options that will expire next year. Elon sold 934,000 shares for $1.02 billion. He also exercised an option to buy 1.6 million Tesla shares at a strike price of $6.24 per share. Remember, Tesla stock today is way north of $1,000 a share. Okay? He just bought these for $6 per share because they were granted to him in 2012. So far, Musk has acquired 22.86 million shares through exercising options that are set to expire in 2022. Money from the stock sale is expected to be used to pay his taxes of about $11 billion for this year. Tumblr's latest update to its iOS app, released yesterday, has censored a long list of seemingly harmless words to comply with Apple's new strict safety guidelines for programs featured on the tech giant's online store. The expanded list of censored tags is apparently intended to protect users from sensitive content when searching through the platform or when looking at its Stuff for You and Following sections. Among the words and phrases that have been recently censored are girl, sad, single dad, single mom, testicular cancer, me, my face, among others. And all of this is according to lists that have been presented and compiled by Tumblr users. Absolutely incredible. And finally, here are the top 10 Betty White secrets to a long life. Are you ready? Write this down. Number 10, playing golf. Number 9, watching Jeopardy. Number 8, animal documentaries. Number 7, playing card games. Number 6, crossword puzzles. Number 5, working. Always be working. Number 4, always be positive. Never the negative. Number 3, avoid anything green in your diet. Number 2, hot dogs. And the number 1, top 10 Betty White secrets to a long life, vodka. That's right. Betty says, yeah, it's vodka and hot dogs. Probably in that order. End quote. Right on, Betty. She's the absolute best. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Ted Danson. Ted Danson today is 74. Yeah, he's been in so many great things. But you know what? I'm just going to go with The Good Place. John Voight today is 83. Ray Donovan, amazing. Zoolander, amazing. Midnight Cowboy, that's right. Deliverance, won an Academy Award, of course, for Coming Home. Yvonne Elliman today is 70 years old. You remember her. Jesus Christ Superstar and that hit, I Don't Know How to Love Him. Drummer J.R. Robinson today is 67 years old. Session drummer on over 50 Grammy-winning recordings. Pat Benatar's guitarist husband, Neil Giraldo, today, 66 years old. And Offspring frontman Dexter Holland, today, is 56. All right. Our dead guy's birthday today is Cozy Powell. Cozy Powell, 1947 to 1998, died at the age of 50. Cozy was one of the greatest and most influential drummers in music history. Playing live and recording with the Jeff Beck Group, Rainbow, the Michael Schenker Group, Graham Bonnet, Gary Moore, Robert Plant, Brian May, Whitesnake, Emerson, Lake and Powell, Yngwie Malmsteen, and Black Sabbath. Cozy appeared on at least 66 albums that we know of. Cozy died on April 5th, 1998 in a car crash while driving his Saab 9000 at 104 miles per hour in bad weather on the M4 motorway near Bristol in the United Kingdom. He was just 50 years old. Happy birthday, Cozy Powell. Seems like all of my favorite bands and all of their greatest albums, Cozy played drums. I'm just saying. It's not a coincidence. On this day in history, 1940, London suffers its most devastating air raid when Germans firebomb the city. The next day, a newspaper photo of St. Paul's Cathedral standing undamaged amid smoke and flames symbolized the capital's unconquerable spirit. Fader fact. Write this down. I got a few things you need to write down tonight. Write this down. A cat's purr. Listen to me. A cat's purr frequency is between 25 and 150 hertz. And that purr promotes bone density and healing. This frequency is used in astronauts to help mitigate bone density issues from low gravity. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, continuing our New Year's Eve week here on Fade to Black, we have very special guests. And our last guest of 2021, it's Richard Dolan. He will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Tomorrow is our last show of the year, everybody. That's right. Friday is New Year's Eve. Tomorrow's our last show of the year. It's a Thursday, and it's also a Fader night. So it's open lines all night long tomorrow night. And I look forward to hanging out and celebrating with all of you. All right, now let me hit this River Moon coffee. Best coffee in the world. I like my coffee dark. I do. Like it dark. I do. Fade to Black blend. Oh, man. RiverMoonWellness.com. Anybody in my life, and I do mean anybody that, that pierces the veil, that gets into the circle, they know how serious I take my coffee. And it's been that way since my dad got me addicted. Yeah, it's the truth. And coffee is special to me. And Fade to Black blend is, when I say it's the best coffee in the world and it's all that I drink, that is the truth. It is the best coffee in the world. It's all I drink. It's the best. If you enjoy coffee, you appreciate the real stuff, the good stuff, you've got to try it. Fade to Black blend. Incredible. Just incredible coffee. All right. One of the things that 2021 continued to give us was great TV. Yeah. The movies this year have been great for sure. And just looking back, I mean, just, off the top of my head, you got Dune. That was great, right? The Matrix 4 last week. And also last week, Don't Look Up. It's like the three best films of the year all came at the end of the year. I haven't seen Spider-Man yet. So there you go. I don't think it's streaming. It's only in theaters. And I'm not going into public spaces like that. That's not going to happen. But everything seemed to come at the end of the year. There were things, at the beginning of the year, but this is just off the top of my head. And certainly for me, the three big films all came at the same time: Dune and The Matrix and Don't Look Up. But that's not what I want to talk about. The TV content has been outstanding. Now, I spend I spend my time doing quality stuff, like watching great television, movies, documentaries. I'm constantly researching, and I'm always trying to expand my imagination and my mind and learn things. And I observe our community through film. And I used to have the mindset that science fiction, and to a large degree this is true, that science fiction used to be, and it was fun, and whatever. Amazon Women on the Moon and B movies and things. But leaving things out like 2001. But, and they were always great. There's no doubt about it, right? Okay. But movies today, these writers, and television today, these creators, television today and movies today, the directors, they listen to Fade to Black. And I'm not saying specifically Fade to Black, but they are into our community very deeply. And it's easy to access this information. And I get it. But the TV this year and the continuing seasons from years past with like The Endless, I mean, I can't say enough about the greatness of that TV series. Invasion. Have you seen Invasion? If you haven't, this is where you need to take out a pen and start writing some things down. Because The Endless is fantastically great. And if you haven't watched it, go back to season 1, and you've got to understand everything that is involved in this series. From what I understand, this is the series finale this year, but it's incredible. Invasion. This is a new series, and I just finished episode 10. Foundation. Incredible adaptation, and I thought it was so well done. I mean, the standards are just so high. Another Life, another one that just kind of snuck in there, and it's incredibly great TV. And if you haven't seen For All Mankind, an alternate reality version of the space race, the Apollo program, the astronaut training program, and the Soviets, and what was really going on, and in an alternate universe scenario with the moon. It is incredible. It's an incredible series. The standards, the production value, Lost in Space. I mean, yeah, a reboot, and so well done. The quality. WandaVision. I mean, out of all of the TV this year and everything that I've just named, man, the Invasion and Foundation and The Endless, and then you've got things like WandaVision, which was incredible, incredibly great, and a different take on things. The Witcher. Have you seen The Witcher? The new season is out now. It is incredible. Wheel of Time is out right now. Again, all of these dip into what we do on this show. The Man in the High Castle. I can't express enough the reasons to go and watch The Man in the High Castle. I think it's 4 seasons, just wrapped it up. And I got to tell you, again, alternate history, alternate universe, and an adaptation on a book that I think is nearly perfect. And the production value. You watch any of these, and the level of detail and storyline and knowledge that is involved here, it's been an incredible year. And then you have even more traditional stuff, like Succession. Wow. Right? Okay, Succession. The Morning Show. Ted Lasso. Murders in the Building. Just amazing. And that's not even science fiction. It's just incredibly done. And then, of course, Rick and Morty. And it's lookalikes, by the way. Solar Opposites. If you haven't checked that out, you need to watch Solar Opposites. And another very similar cartoon for adults, Inside Job. Now, write any of these down. Anyone, and go and watch them. I have invested my time. I do not. If I watch a series from beginning to end, there's plenty of series out there that I stopped watching. But if I watch something beginning to end, and I bring it up on this show, it's a must watch. It's a must watch. My time is valuable. And for me to go and you think about all of the hours, the weeks in 2021 that I have invested into watching this programming, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And then out of everything, Stranger Things isn't even out yet. And been waiting for that. And from what I understand, it's going to happen in 2022. But out of everything here, and I could stop and go in any direction, because Invasion is so different. It's you need to peep that out. But then the Endless and Foundation and Another Life, incredible, For All Mankind. And out of all of this here, even Succession, Rick and Morty. And a friend of mine, I won't say his name on the air, a friend of mine gave me a Rick and Morty shirt, T-shirt for my birthday. And, somebody that listens to the show, pays attention, and understands where I've been going with Rick and Morty. And to have a cartoon, an animated series. Now, this is adult. This isn't for kids. There are things and subject matter and words that are used in this. This isn't for kids. I don't know where the line is in the sand, but I'm going to probably go at the age 18. It's an adult cartoon. The subjects, it's so quick and so fast. You have to really pay attention. But everything that I enjoy about Fade to Black is in Rick and Morty. All of it. The things and the phrases, the things, the subjects, the ideas, the theories, the science, the physics, the science fiction, the alien aspect to it, the time travel aspect to it, alternate realities and vortexes and portals and life and family life. Everything is in Rick and Morty. So how can I go and list all of these great programs of 2021, and they have been fantastic. The Man in the High Castle. Woo! Rick and Morty may be the best TV series on television right now and maybe in the history of television. So that's my list for 2021. It has been a great year for television and for knowledge and learning. So go and check all of these out. If you didn't get it all, you didn't get to re-listen to the show. And there you go. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is our last guest of 2021. And tonight, it's Richard Bleepin' Dolan right after the break. Yep, on the Game Changer and UnX Networks. Oh, my daughter just said her COVID test came back negative. That's what I'm talking about. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It just came in right now, live text. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back with Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. KGRA.com. The tea that makes you go.
The new KUNXDB, the UNX Network, bringing you the best in paranormal programming in premium, high-definition streaming audio and video. Log on to the network at unxnetwork.com and check out the growing lineup of programs, including Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and many more. Sign up for the free UNX newsletter, follow the UNX blog, or pick up the latest edition of the UNX magazine. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So check us out at unxnetwork.com. Tap the show page and the calendar so you never miss your favorite live shows and podcasts. We are your portal for all things paranormal. The X, explaining the unexplained.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Cal Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It is New Year's week here on Fade to Black, in case you haven't heard. That's right. Tomorrow night is our last show of the year. It's on a Thursday night. It's a Fader night, so we can celebrate together, and I'll take your phone calls all night long. But tonight, it's our last guest of the year for 2021. As it should be, it is Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Richard, one of the world's leading researchers and writers on the subject of UFOs. He completed his graduate work at the University of Rochester, where he studied U.S. Cold War strategy, European history, and international diplomacy. He also studied at Alfred University and Oxford University. He's the author of UFOs and the National Security State. He co-authored that with Bryce Zabel, 80 After Disclosure, UFOs in the 21st Century Mind, and his latest, The Alien Agenda. He also hosts his weekly show on YouTube and, of course, over on his website. Everybody needs to head over to richarddolanmembers.com. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black. We made it. It's Richard Bleepin' Dolan. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Jimmy.
How are you?
I'm good.
How was your Christmas?
It was fine.
It was fine?
Very nice.
It just fine?
I had a very... I'm hearing some feedback. I'm actually getting a little bit of reverb here.
It's not from me.
I'm wearing my headphones and everything.
Yeah, and you look so professional. So now you have to ignore it. Yeah.
All right, I think it's good now. I think it just went away. So that makes it a lot easier to talk with you. I had a fine Christmas. It was perfectly nice. It was somewhat quiet, but it was good. I did some reading, I did some work, and it was all very good.
Yeah, good for you. And my best to you and the family, and happy holidays. And here we are. It's New Year's week.
Hey, I'm giving a Happy New Year's message from Tracy and myself. We just want to lay that out, put that out for everyone out there to hear.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Tracy, and right back at you. Just going to let you know, Richard, I got a flood of emails today about you, one right after another. Don't forget the last song that he listened to today. And I was like, man, this is like some kind of crazy tradition.
Oh, people don't like to hear that now?
No, they do. They want to hear it.
They
do. and so
they'd be like, all right, enough with the song.
Yeah, isn't that kind of cool, though?
Everything with the song.
Yes, people pay attention, man. They pay attention.
So I've got to think about this. I actually had not thought about it. And are you asking me?
Yes, I am.
You are asking me. So I had the last thing that I listened to that I remember listening to. I did have music on, and it was classical music. So I'm apologizing to everyone because it's not exciting. And it was a classical piece, and I believe it was by Chopin with some piano music. One of the Polonaises or Nocturne or one of those. I can't remember the exact piece. But I love Chopin. I adore Chopin.
That's impressive, though.
If angels came down to create music, they might almost be as good as Frédéric Chopin.
Yeah, almost. And you're right on that.
Divinely inspired.
The last thing I listened to today was All Moving Parts Stand Still by Black Sabbath off of Technical Ecstasy.
It's similar.
Yeah, very close. If angels came down.
Devils came up.
If angels came down. Oh, man. That was my day today. I was very excited.
Very good.
About our conversation tonight. And last night I had on Peter Robbins, our good friend.
Yes, he's my buddy, Peter.
Yeah.
I was so glad to know that.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about you last night. We talked about Helen Wheels. And
yes.
But and what an incredible story, and she was just an incredible person. But
did you guys get to talk about her abduction?
Yes, we did.
And then the fact that Peter was right there.
Yes. 12 years old, and Peter was 14, and 1961, and then
several months before the Hill abduction case,
which is just incredible. And he had said last night, he said, Jimmy, I'm just going to tell all of your listeners to go and check out Richard's thing that he did on that, and it was one of the most in-depth shows on Helen and what went down. And we
did a very in-depth conversation about that. It's true. And it was amazing because Peter had talked about this for many years, but he hadn't honestly done a full presentation on it, to my knowledge, almost anywhere. And I talk with Peter a lot. We're really good friends. We don't live that far from each other, a couple of hours. And I love the man. And it occurred to me that he had not, this is such a fundamental element, not just in his life, but actually in the history of the UFO subject. It's one of the earliest really solid cases for gray alien abduction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to know that, this is the thing about that entire case. What Peter and Helen ended up growing up and doing with their lives, they were both very successful and part of their communities. And in this case, the art and the music and photography community of New York. And she was so dynamic and so powerful as an individual. And then Peter,
she was an original punk rocker. She was playing CBGBs, and
yes.
they all knew her. She knew them. She just never got the break that a lot of those other bands did get.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly the case. And then, of course, Peter going on to write and to publish and who he is today. Yeah. But to think that those two who were just so dynamic, right, and outgoing and everything, that they went through that together at the age of 12 and at the age of 14. It's just an incredible story.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable. And honestly, it's one of these things where the encounter phenomenon, let's call it the encounter or the abduction phenomenon, affects people. Like folks who are not familiar with the UFO subject, I don't think they have any idea just how deep this thing is, because when you have such an experience like that, it changes your life and often in ways that you just don't want it to change. Peter did not want to devote his life in UFO research. He had other plans, and this thing really derailed his career path. And in the case of his sister, Helen, who I really wish I'd gotten to meet her, I never did. But I think she was haunted and troubled by this for her entire life. And she was a resilient person from everything that I was able to learn about her. And so it wasn't like it wrecked her life, but it deeply, deeply imprinted on her consciousness in ways. And I don't think, I doubt that she ever truly resolved what she had experienced. I mean, how do you?
Right.
When you have this, and in her case, I don't think it required. She did end up doing some regression with Bud Hopkins, but she had conscious memory of it.
Yeah, she remembered
all those
it.
Years.
Yeah. And the opposite of Peter, where, and he said last night, and I've talked to him about this before. I wanted to spend more time on this last night, but anyway, you could tell when he said, my mind protected me. It just buried this, and when it came back, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it did not. It was not a positive. It was not a positive thing that he went through.
It really upset him. Yeah.
Yeah, it upset him greatly.
People, I'm glad you did this with Peter, because I feel like he's such a great guy for everyone to know about, and when you know him personally, and I know Peter. I sleep over at his place. We've slept over at my place many times. Like we're like brothers, and I can just tell you, he is one of the most scrupulously, incredibly conscientious and honest people you'll ever meet. So when Peter tells you a story, as incredible as it sounds, it's true.
Right.
Man does not. He cannot lie. It's not in him.
There's a book there. There's a book there, and he may have to. He may have to devote some time to that. I think that, you know what?
Yes.
Shelve your next book and put it to the side. It's already taken 5 years. So what's,
I've written a bunch of books in the last 5 years. All right, I have done things.
Why do you get so defensive every time I give you a hard time?
You're the only one who's like, when's your third volume coming out? And all I will say is it bugs me that it's not out as well. All right, so you're not the only one.
Now,
I feel a little prickly about it.
Okay, let's get unprickly. And I'm in a great mood, Richard, and thank you. Tonight you're doing a double. What do you call it in baseball when you have
a doubleheader?
Doubleheader, back to back.
I'm at the plate with you, and I'm on deck with Coast to Coast.
Right after this. So I mentioned in the opening of the show, I'm going to call you first thing in the morning. How you doing?
You bastard.
Okay.
My phone will be on airplane. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Straight to voicemail. 2021.
Yes.
I started to pick this apart this week, knowing, that this was our last week of shows, of course, and New Year's being on Friday. But I started to look back at 2021, and there are probably a dozen or so UFO, UAP-related stories and headlines that in any other year, one of those would be huge galactic, barnstorming news. And we had it all year long. And I started to just like peel back the memories a little bit going, that's right. And it wasn't just one thing. It was an incredible year for ufology and what is going on. Did you ever expect to see this in 2021 like we did?
No, we did see a lot. You're absolutely right. We had there were more articles in the spring. Remember all the stuff that came out on more Navy UFO encounters or UAP encounters that just happened in 2019, 2020. I mean, quite recent. That came out. We had the leak of those images to Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. We had the New Yorker article. Remember? Harry Reid just died.
Yeah, and I was going to do that at the top of the hour, but
sorry.
Yeah,
well,
but that's
we had
okay.
The New Yorker article, which quoted Harry Reid in his statement about Lockheed. Remember that, where he's essentially just saying, yes, Lockheed's got the secrets, and then he had to walk that back on Twitter. I think 60 Minutes did the whole thing on UFOs last spring, and then we had the UAP Task Force report.
We had
that's all in the first half of the year.
We had I know. We had Showtime's a series, UFO. J.J.
I ended
Abrams
up being very critical of that.
Yeah,
we discussed that.
Yeah, we did, and it just and one of the things that for me, one of the biggest things of the year, which got overshadowed by the UAP Task Force report, was the memorandum for senior Pentagon leadership from the Deputy Secretary of Defense about UAPs and how it would be handled in the future. And this was a memorandum directing these policies go into place. And the subject in that title, which was released the same day as the UAP Task Force report, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Assessments. And I think that was one of the biggest events of the year, and it ended up getting overshadowed.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's evident, yes, I agree with you. That was an important development. But what you ended up seeing, of course, later in the year, in fact, quite recently, you have, it looks to me, I want to ask what you think about this, competing elements within the Pentagon.
Yes.
Relating to how to pursue this subject of UAP, as they're now calling it, moving forward. So in the beginning of November, I think that was when the Gillibrand Amendment was announced.
December 9th is when her press release went out.
No, but actually, no. I think it was quite a bit earlier than that. I think she talked about it. It was, I think, promoted as early as the beginning of November.
Well, I'm looking at this is her press release from Kirsten Gillibrand, her office, December 9th, 2021. Gillibrand's
I don't think that was the first time we heard about it, though.
No, they were working on it. It was correct. But the press release from her office came out December 9th.
Okay.
And which breaks down the 5 parts. But yes, you're right, though. This is competing with the NDAA and the verbiage in the budget for intelligence for 2022.
Yes, right. So the Pentagon, they rolled up the Navy UAP task force into something, this most horrific title of it, organization, or as I've got it right here, Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group. That should be like a health hazard just to say it. AOIMSG. It says nothing whatsoever. So that's what they have proposed to replace the task force that the Navy had, and that's just a very tepid, very weak organization, the way they've got that. And then you've got what Gillibrand's amendment in the NDAA promoted, which, the word on the street is that Christopher Mellon was behind the scenes helping craft that. I would have no doubt if that were true. I don't have a confirmation. But they're proposing and it's been passed because Biden signed it, the Anomalous Surveillance and Resolution Office. That's a better title, ASRO. And that's it. I mean, on paper, anyway, my take is that this organization would be actually on paper, everything we have to see how this turns out, but it would be a seemingly robust organization. The way I'm reading it, they're supposed to be conducting serious investigations of all UFO events, or at least significant events in the U.S., like actual field investigations. Is that possible? And they're supposed to develop theories and potential answers to this and report to Congress. Whereas the AOIMSG that the Pentagon was proposing, I don't think is going to do any of that. And so they both seem to exist now.
And okay. So let's talk about the competing elements of this before we get to the break. Because when you look at the quote that was released from Senator Rubio, part of the Gillibrand, I want to say Gillibrand. We'll go with Gillibrand.
I know. She's a senator from my state.
Yes.
And I still had to look that up.
Does she say Gillibrand?
I think it's Gillibrand. Okay. So I looked this up on on the internet. You can say how to pronounce certain words.
Yes.
It's useful.
Yes.
For people like us, because we have to say these things every now and then. And I don't follow this person. I hate these people. I hate most of the senators in the United States government. So I had to look up her name and find out how do you pronounce it. It's with, I think, a soft G.
Okay, so it's Gillibrand. We'll go with Gillibrand. Rubio says this, and it's this quote that just blows my mind. He says, It is my hope that the creation of a new Joint Defense Department and Intelligence Community Office, and right there, it's like, stop. So for the first time in history, we're going to have the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies cooperate. When that has never been the case before. That has been a very strong competing part of not only the military, but Washington, D.C. And typically, they don't share anything with each other unless they have to.
I guess you're referring to CIA versus the rest of the military system. I mean, the military's got their own intelligence departments.
That's
so
right.
They are technically part of the intelligence community. But right, I mean, historically, even within the military, they don't always cooperate. You've got Navy intelligence, you've got Air Force intelligence. There's always been rivalry there, and Army intelligence as well. To say nothing of with CIA
and the NRO and the NSA,
and then the DIA,
yes,
the NSA, right? Yeah, all of that. So I don't know, are all of these? Because I actually don't know this answer. Are all of the intelligence agencies responsible for this?
Well, if we go back. If we go back to the memorandum from the Deputy Secretary of Defense, there were 3 points in this directorate, okay, laying it down. 1, establish procedures to synchronize collection, reporting, and analysis of the UAP problem, set and to establish recommendations for securely military test and training ranges.
Are we talking about the AOI MSG then? That's the synchronization group, I think, right?
Well, this is from the Deputy Secretary of Defense on June 25th. This is the memorandum that she sent out.
I think this is what they ended up creating.
Right? Yes. And then number 2, identify requirements for establishment and operations of the new activity to include the organizational alignment, resources, and staffing required, as well as any necessary authorities and a timeline for implementation. And then be developed in coordination with the principal staff assistants, the chairman, joint chiefs of staff, the secretaries of the military departments, and the commanders of the combatant commands within the DNI and other relevant interagency partners.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any reporting mandate for them, though. Like, is it in there that they've got to report their findings to Congress or the public?
Yeah, she says a report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI, highlights the current challenges associated with assessing unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, occurring in DoD training ranges. It is critical that the United States maintain operations securely and safely. To this end, it is equally critical that all U.S. military air crews or government personnel report whenever aircraft or other devices interfere with military training. This includes the observation and reporting of UAPs. And so this was, again, sent out the day that the UAP Task Force report was released.
All right, well, in the immortal words of Greta Thunberg, blah, blah, blah. Is this really going to go anywhere? I doubt it. But I do think that the Gillibrand Amendment was a much stronger attempt to get on top of this. But I don't even know if that's going to amount to anything.
Well, what she did, her amendment breaks down in 5 parts. I don't have enough time to get into all of them. Yeah. We can come back after the break. But number 1 was the collection and analysis of data into a central repository. Number 2, establish a science plan to test scientific theories related to UAP characteristics and performances.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
I mean, that was quite extraordinary, anyway, to hear that.
Yep. And then number 3, build a national priorities intelligence framework. Number 4, evaluate any links between UAPs and foreign governments or non-state actors. And then the last one was the report to Congress. And that there would be an annual report to Congress that would be unclassified, and then a classified semi-annual briefing to Congress, so twice a year, every 6 months.
Yeah, it's a much more serious thing, and it's a separate office. It seems to me. I don't think they're talking about the same bureaucracy. So you've got this. This is a weird situation. The potential of two, competing or different UFO or UAP investigative offices within the Pentagon itself. It's not that the Pentagon hasn't had this in the past, but those are all classified. Those are not publicly acknowledged like UFO investigative organizations. And here, it seems to me, unless I'm missing something, that we may have two simultaneously.
And Rubio.
Am I wrong here?
No, you're not wrong. And the other part to me, which I think is the most extraordinary, is they are putting into legislation cooperation between the intelligence agencies and the Department of Defense, and that this would be collected in a central repository and then handed over to Congress. That's strong.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot that's missing. We should talk about this because I think there's a huge amount of information that's going to be missing from all of this, and will continue to be missing. And then the next time we have another big crisis, probably sometime in 2022, we'll all forget about this anyway. Maybe this will all go away. I mean, I have little to no hope in the goodwill and follow through of the United States government on pretty much anything at this point. So even, the Gillibrand Amendment, I will say, sounded pretty darn good from a UFO advocate point of view. Compared with everything that we have seen coming from the United States government in the past, this is actually a pretty good idea. It was well put together. So we will see. We'll see if there's genuine follow-up or if there will be sabotage, which I would actually expect to happen to this. In other words, I think that you would have to expect high-level officials, because we know that not everyone is on board with disclosure. They just are not. And so how difficult is it to see that the Pentagon or some group would put in to run this new organization, they put in their guy, whose job is to basically subvert it and sabotage it.
Exactly. And I talked about that a little bit last night. We'll follow up. Yeah. We'll follow up with that when we come back after this short break. Our last guest of 2021, it's Richard Bleepin' Dolan. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UnX Networks. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our last guest of 2021, as it should be, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, and check this out. I went through, Richard, last week, I did 2 straight days of Chet Baker.
Oh, wow.
Man.
What a great musician he was.
Oh man, I watched his documentary, and then I went back and just one album after another, and live performances, and it dude brings me to tears.
He's a beautiful, beautiful trumpet player. One of the best.
One of the best.
When he was a young guy, I mean, he was this handsome dude. He was a magnificent player. He had this Miles Davis kind of sound out of his horn, and he was a good singer.
It was a great. He might have been a better singer than he was a trumpet player, and he was a pretty good actor too, as well. And he got into film anyway.
Heroin took him down.
Yeah, man.
That's the sad thing about him. But he was such a fantastic, beautiful player. Did a lot of work with. God, who did he play with? It was a Stan Getz, I think. Or,
yeah, I played with Stan Getz.
Jerry Mulligan.
Yep,
I can't remember.
Yep, no, that's right. And his stuff with Stan Getz, and I was watching some of the trio work. Yeah. Oh man,
absolutely.
That period of jazz, that 1950s exploratory. Free
some of the
form.
best ever.
It's just incredible, and
it's the coolest stuff around.
The coolest.
People don't if they realize, then they know. But a lot of people don't know just how great that that's like almost a peak in a way of a certain part of American civilization right there. Like the explosion of this genius, this creativity. It's just an amazing thing.
Yeah,
and Chet Baker was a big part of it.
A huge part of it. And we can, if you go back, and we all know about Miles, but if you go and you listen to the transition in that period from 1950 to 1960, that Miles and Coltrane,
Bill Evans, don't forget him.
Bill Evans trio. Oh man, and
so many greats of that era.
Ornette Coleman. You know, you could just go. The list just got Thelonious Monk. You just go on and on. But anyway, it was cool. There was a cool. If there's a definition of cool, it's jazz in the 1950s.
Yeah, these guys were all explorers. That's really what they were. They were like looking for this ultimate artistic expression, and they ended up. It was almost like when Picasso went abstract, like at the turn of the 20th century. That's what these jazz musicians were doing with the music by the 1950s, especially when you get to the 60s with Coltrane and Coleman. They were just going out into space. And honestly, for me personally, after Coltrane does like A Love Supreme, that's 1964, to me, after that, he loses me. As much as I adore, do you know that there's a Church of John Coltrane? I think it's out in California.
Yes, there is a Church of John
Where
Coltrane.
else would it be? It's in California. But after 1964, he's so, I'm not a professional musician, and it's hard for me to figure out like where that guy was going in the last few years of his life. But right up until then, I'm with him, and I just love his journey. It's an amazing musical journey.
You know, I love the mid-century furniture architecture. You know, that whole Palm Springs thing, and it was going on around the country. But anytime I see that furniture or I see that artwork or the paintings or the architecture, I just think of that music. I do. It takes me straight there, and it was just an amazing time.
Thing is like that whole part of American history. The thing that we feel it, but we forget is that was a country that believed in itself. And they knew that there were problems. Like, in jazz, you've got a lot of African-American musicians were, this was like an area that they could excel. I mean, there were a lot of great white musicians in that era as well, but there were a lot of genius level black musicians in jazz in that period particularly. And I think they knew there was racial struggles that had to be dealt with, but in their field, they knew they had this, and they were creating this incredible sound. And I think there was this confidence throughout all of American society that was it permeated. And that's the thing. I feel like when someone explores that era, we're drawn to it, because I don't think that we have that confidence any longer. I don't really think it's there, but it was absolutely there in the 40s and the 50s and into the 60s. And then I think it started to fall apart.
Do you think it was the whole, part of it, but the culture was, jet airplanes and cars and the kitchen of the future.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? This whole.
Absolutely. Futurism.
Yeah.
They believed that they were going to create a perfect society. And this is kind of crazy. You've got this idea of, America, you can forgive America for feeling like this. They sat on top of the world after the Second World War ended. America had 5% of the world's population, had 50% of the world's wealth in 1945. It was, how do you not have optimism when you're in that? But also the technology was really going to save the world. We're going to have the Green Revolution. We're going to have all, I really got into this for a while. It's called retrofuturism. It's looking at futurism of the past, and the 1950s and 60s, American futurism was, oh my God, just out of control. But they were basically scientific utopians, and there's an attraction to that, but there was actually a lot of danger to that, and I think we're living in a world that's being run today by utopians as well, and they have their own kind of current version of that perfect future that they are convinced they're going to create for the world, and it's their own version of utopia. It's not my utopia, but it's their utopia.
If 50 years from now, do you think they will look back to like 2020, 2010 as retrofuturism as well?
Yes, yeah, but dark. It's going to be a dark. Look, there's no one who's going to look back to our era and is going to say, "Oh wow, what a great time." What they're going to see is a lot of the worst. A lot of the worst. We've seen a lot of the worst in human nature in these last 2 years. Let's just get real here.
Sure.
We've seen a lot of the world just cheerleading its way. I mean, paid shills for the media, basically working for essentially a global elite, but they are cheerleading their way toward a kind of global authoritarian, totalitarian system.
Are they doing
just
it?
Gleeful about it.
Are they doing?
But they believe that they're going to do this for the best of humanity. So
why do you think? And I wanted to get to one of the other big stories of 2021 that we didn't mention. There's so many. But that is Danny Sheehan and Lou Elizondo and that investigation and what happened with their meetings with the ODNI.
Oh yeah,
That huge.
Well, that's
story.
important. That's important. Yeah,
huge story.
You probably know this better than I do, but I talked with Danny and I did talk with Lou about these developments. So I have some knowledge of it, but probably not as good as yours. But yes, first of all, the fact that Danny had to become Lou's lawyer. That's important. All of these people for years who kept saying Lou Elizondo's a CIA shill or he's an intelligence asset trying to spread disinformation. I just, it really bugged me. And I'm not here to defend Lou Elizondo. I believe in being fair, for goodness sake. And what was evident to me, it's always been evident to me that the Pentagon just wanted to destroy this guy. And they took many opportunities to try to do so. They did not fail. And he required, finally, the service of a lawyer to step in on his behalf. And Danny Sheehan's one of the best you could ask for. Danny defended, good grief, back in the 70s, Karen Silkwood. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you ever talk to Danny about the Iran-Contra, he's one of the world's best experts on Iran-Contra. It's amazing. Danny's really been around, and he's been a lawyer really working for the underdog and for civil rights and human rights for years and years. And so he's the right guy. And he defended John Mack, 30 years ago when Mack was being attacked by Harvard University. So Danny worked with Lou to get the UAP task force actually to do its job. A lot of people don't realize, the UAP task force was woefully understaffed. What were they really even able to do? Did they even have the clearances to actually analyze the information they were supposed to analyze? Probably not. And Lou had this very strong feeling like these guys were not going to be able to do their job. And so he got Danny on board to actually force them to at least be somewhat responsive to their mandate. So those are the main things that I know about it. I suspect you could probably fill in these details far better than me.
There was there was all of that, and the other part, which Danny forced the ODNI's hand on this, was just bringing these three letters UAP to the attention of the ODNI. Where the ODNI said the Office of National Intelligence, for everybody that doesn't know what ODNI is, and the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, ODNI being the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
The umbrella for the intelligence community.
Right. And so what Danny forced the ODNI to recognize was UAP. And then the ODNI stepped back and said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And then forced this investigation because it said, he doesn't have any emails anymore. There's no way for him to defend himself. They're saying that he didn't do this when actually he did. And then the ODNI turned around and said, wait a minute, I'm going to ask all of the agencies, all of a certain level of all of these agencies to come back and tell me how they've been dealing with UAPs. What have you been saying? Who have you been saying to the public? What are UAPs? What information do you have? And that was just absolutely extraordinary. And now I don't know the results of this investigation that the ODNI sent out a very strongly worded memo, absolutely at every level of the Department of Defense and the agencies, on how they were dealing with the UAP issue, if at all. And that was strong, and that was all because of Danny Sheehan pushing this forward.
Yes, thank you for filling that in for everyone, including for me. The problem that you're going to see, though, like I think what's happened is the UFO phenomenon. First of all, we have a big government. So we have a very, very big government and a big military. And what has become, I think, evident is that a lot of the management of the UFO problem, if we can call it that, not all of it is in the formal channels of the United States government. I just don't think that's the case anymore. I mean, maybe officially the answer is yes, but you know, I'll go back to the Davis-Wilson notes, which I maintain are incredibly important for us to understand just how this phenomenon goes down. But when you read those leaked notes, which many of us have been talking about for a few years now, I think it's quite evident that the center of gravity is, in many ways, has moved away from formal channels of the United States government and are protected through programs within the special access program system, sometimes under fake names or fake descriptions, things like that. And they have the contracting organizations that study these UAP, study objects, technology, which they are doing. They seem to have complete, total protection from any kind of inquiry. So when you get an order coming out of the ODNI saying, yes, we want to look at UFO reports or UAP reports up to a certain level, that's good. And it could very well be that individual who issued that report might genuinely think, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should look at this. The real question to ask is who's been read in and who's not been read into this, the real deep elements of this. I had a conversation years ago with a formerly fairly high-ranking government official who was very deeply engaged in this subject. And this man said to me that in his retirement, he had conversations with, I think he said 18 former high-level officials who were either former presidents of the United States, former secretaries of defense, or deputy secretaries of defense. So 18 people who were at those levels, and several of them were former presidents. And he said of those 18, and about UFOs. So he talked with those individuals in their retirement about UFOs, right? And I don't know how he brought it up in those cases, but he said he brought them up. And he said, yeah, the responses fell into three basic categories. The largest by far category was, oh, yes, I'm very interested in that. I don't really know very much. Do you know anything? That was the largest group. He said, and that was like maybe 11, 12 of the 18, or maybe 12 or 13, I don't know, some significant amount. So they did not know. And there was a small group, I think he said 3 or 4, that said, oh, UFOs, don't waste your time with that garbage. That's stupid nonsense. And then he said 2 or 3, and he literally said 2 or 3, said, oh, yes, I've been read into that. I can't really tell you much. So of that elite level of individuals, this is what this man said to me. So what does that say? Well, that says at the highest levels of our formal government apparatus, including the Department of Defense, most of those people don't really seem to know very much.
Does it surprise you that since December of 2017, that the interest and the coverage at every level, it doesn't matter if it's the media, the government, science, Avi Loeb, whatever, has been on this constant rise where we arrived at 2021, where it has been week to week, month to month, throughout the entire year, a constant barrage and interest in the subject moving through Capitol Hill and through the media. It didn't ease up where you would have thought that 2017 was as big as it was going to get. And in 2021 has been just an amazing year for this. Does that surprise you?
I have a slightly different take on it. Now, I mean, yes, I recognize what you're saying, so I don't want to say, no, that didn't happen. But what's missing here? The fact is a tremendous amount is almost willfully being ignored in all of this by at least the larger media. The fact that there's even a conspiracy or a cover-up involved, no one ever talks about this.
Right.
I mean, think about how ridiculous that is not to talk about this. I mean, for years and years and years, anyone who followed UFOs, even a little bit, had to assume when we started acknowledging that this was real, how could you ignore the fact that there's been a cover-up? All those crazy conspiracy theorists, golly, were they right? And none of this is even being broached. Like, why not? Everyone's wondering, and yet they don't talk about it. Because you're not supposed to talk about conspiracy theories. We can get back to that because that's an important part of our world today. But then not even the fact of conspiracy is not being discussed, but the nature of that cover-up or conspiracy doesn't get discussed. By nature, I simply mean the fact that a lot of this certainly appears to be, to some extent, privatized, not even so that it's beyond formal government channels. In other words, our conversation about our government, I think, is at the lower than kindergarten level in terms of what actually is the situation. Like, for example, when you look at the Davis Wilson notes, what's obvious? Wilson discovers this deeply buried special access program that deals with alien tech. He goes to find out about it. He tells the contractors, you need to let me in to oversee this. He is deputy head of intelligence of the Joint Chiefs. Okay, so he thinks he has the right to do it. They blow him off. He says, I'm going to complain up the chain of command. They say, go, be our guest. He does, and what happens? Instead of being thanked by his supervisors for finding this irregular program, no, he's threatened with his career.
He gets hung up on. Yeah.
That's how the real system works. So we don't talk about any of that. No one's talking about retrievals, crash retrievals, possession of exotic materials or bodies. I mean, we've come close. There's been little hints. Elizondo kind of said it to Tucker Carlson a couple of years ago. Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal a year and a half ago in the New York Times almost mentioned it. They're talking about Eric Davis, but no one really is going over that line. Because that's a big line to go over.
But there is a section. We've got 2 minutes before the break. There is a section in the NDAA that does address that, and I was completely shocked that verbiage and that paragraph was included in the
talking
NDAA.
About
crash retrievals.
What's the phrasing?
The phrasing is that the reports shall be written up within 2 weeks of any technology or retrieval of any crash debris of UAPs.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
that was strong. I mean, now see, but this is the thing. Goes back to your point, though, Richard.
And no talk of abductions.
But they do talk about health issues, and we'll come back to that after the break. But back to your point. For them to put that specific paragraph in the NDAA says to me that they are aware of this going on in the past. Otherwise, why put it in the report or in the budget at all?
I'm guessing we could probably thank Chris Mellon for that. I'm going to just take a wild guess. I don't know, but I've got to think his fingerprints are there. This is just my guess, and I'm not the first one to mention this in public, so I'm just going to say. But I know that he wants a good investigation going on within the government. I know he believes in that, and I know he knows a lot of those people, and he might be in a position to do it. So if he did, I would just say thanks, because it's actually a good thing.
Now, who is? And you brought this up earlier. I don't want this to get away from. We need a UAP police officer now. There needs to be somebody to handle the intelligence community to make sure that they are forthwith. and their reporting, and the Department of Defense and their reporting to make sure that this stuff actually does get communicated and compiled in this central repository that Gillibrand is asking for.
Yeah.
There's got to be somebody appointed there to make sure.
I don't know how that's going to happen. Like, I don't know anything about the mechanisms, frankly, by which they're going to select, like, someone's going to have to run the department.
A UAP czar. A UAP czar.
Yes, don't you think?
Yes, it has to be there.
So I don't know how they're going to select that, and is it going to be a fox in the hen house kind of a thing, or will it be a legitimate attempt to do the right thing, which is genuinely to try to collect these reports and honestly to report them to the public? I mean, to the extent that it is possible for them to do that. And no one's saying, look, threaten national security. I'm not saying that either. But I do think, look, you've got to have some mandate for public accountability here.
Do you think this is a yes or no answer? We can follow up after the break. Let's say, hypothetically, there is a crash retrieval that occurs in a modern sense on this watch. Does that information become unclassified in some regards to report that the crash retrieval happened? Not the technology, not the national security, but that this did happen. Would that be part of an unclassified report, a crash retrieval?
I doubt that it would. I think it should be. I think we need to start putting this all out. I think it's got to get out. Almost, I would say, for the salvation of our society, frankly. We have got to end this secret. We have got to get all of this out. So if there is a crash retrieval, yes, I mean, I would like to see that reported. Will it be reported? I would tend to doubt it. There have been a number of crash retrievals over the years in the 20th century. When you really think about it, either they're not happening in the 21st century or they are really being covered up very, very well, very effectively. And I don't know the answer. I suspect the latter. I suspect that there have been continued retrievals. There's a lot of traffic up there. There's just a tremendous amount of traffic that that's another thing that's not being discussed is the amazing quantity of UFO sightings that happen every single year. It's like every day around the world, there's some other good sighting that happens. There's a global operation going on by these beings. They're operating around our world all the time, every day. What the hell are they doing?
I think that's
we need to ask this.
Yeah, I think that was one of the concerns with the ODNI, which is, wait a minute, what do you mean you have information on crash retrievals? What do you mean you have data on UAPs?
Doesn't it seem outrageous that the ODNI is not going to know?
Right, and that's what the ODNI said. This stuff needs to come into my office now, and I want to know who has been responsible for keeping this information to yourself at every single level in every division.
Look, I know we got break. We've been dealing with this phenomenon for almost 80 years, at least that we know of. These beings have been here that long, if not longer. They know us very well. And when you start looking into abduction accounts, they're operating on levels beyond us. And some of them can look human. Okay? So what are they doing? We have to deal with some important questions here, and in terms of the full reality behind this phenomenon. And for ODNI to have this attitude of, well, what's actually going on?
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Let's take our break. Let's get this in. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our last guest of 2021. That's right, Richard Dolan. More with Richard when we come back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
This is Jimmy Church, and I personally invite you to the 2022 Conscious Life Expo this February 4th through the 7th, live at the LAX Hilton in Los Angeles, California. This year, we have the most exciting speakers, including Whitley Strieber, Adam Apollo, Billy Carson, Daryl Anka and Bashar, William Henry, Caroline Corey, Susan Slaughter, Daniel Brinkley, JJ and Desiree Hertog, Sarah Breskman Cosme, George Norrie, Gail Thackeray, and many, many more. I will be hosting all weekend long, including the keynote Ancient Secrets panel on Friday night, 5 vendor and exhibit halls, 3 floors of speakers, panels, and celebration. This is the biggest event of the year, and early bird passes are available now. Just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com for the schedule, speakers, and information. That's ConsciousLifeExpo.com. Do you want to be an official Fade or Not? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Fade or Nots. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Here we go. Another great conversation with Richard Dolan. And just gonna read a tweet that just came in from Moon World Recordings. And the tweet says, Richard Dolan for UAP czar. Okay, let's stop right there for a second, Rich. Would you, let's just say, right, in the Philip K. Dick alternate universe, that something like that did happen. Would you accept that kind of challenge? Would you apply yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's either put up or shut up, right? So, I mean, here I am, I'm mouthing off about UFO secrecy, and if I had an opportunity to do something about it, yes, I think I would.
Have you ever thought about public office? I think I've asked you this before.
You have, yes, yeah. Yeah, I have no desire to do that. I have no intention or desire to do that.
You did just say earlier.
I mean, like, it's not. Look, this isn't like Jimmy Stewart, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I mean, I'm really sorry, but I haven't had a political career. I don't have. I'm not a fundraiser. I don't work in that world. Like, it wouldn't happen. Like, I wouldn't succeed. At least I don't want to try to deal with that world. I mean, I know this sounds like a cop-out, but look, I've got certain things that I think I'm good at and certain things that I probably would not be good at. And I just, public office, no. When I was a kid, a lot of kids think, oh yeah, I want to be president. You know, that doesn't count. As far as serious thought about it, I'm very public policy engaged. Like, I think about politics all the time. I think about international politics all the time. I think about national politics. But for me actually to go in and be one of those people, I don't think it was the destiny for me.
You brought up a conspiracy theory earlier, and I do want to address something that you and I both participated in 2021. We released not one but two films, and Extraordinary: The Revelations, which of course was shot a couple of years ago. I narrated it, an excellent film. And then, of course, The Observers, which is another, I mean, just an exceptional film I'm very proud of. But one of the points, and I want to really thank Jesse Ventura for his contribution in this film, because one of the things that he brings up, and he does it via the JFK assassination, but his point being that if there's a conspiracy here, and if you don't think secrets can be held, it's dealing with UFOs. And this is the biggest conspiracy of all time. And I would have to agree with Jesse and the way that he presented it in the film. That if you want to bring up conspiracies and how the man can control the narrative and control the secrets, here's this, and it's right here in front of us.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I love that you got Jesse on there. That was fantastic. I think there are four fundamental defining conspiracies of our era, of this lifetime. So you got JFK, yes. UFOs, yes. So maybe start with UFOs. For UFOs, then JFK, then 9/11, and now COVID. I consider personally all of those to have highest level conspiratorial, like diabolical conspiratorial aspects to them. Each one of those. I'm sure there's more, but I would say those are probably the top four.
Are you surprised? I keep saying this because we are in the middle of this turning point in history. But are you surprised how the media was used to control immediately the entire planet? And
you're talking about with the COVID?
I'm talking about that and everything else that obviously applies to that. You have the pandemic, of course, but you have employment, you have transportation, you have airlines, you have global distribution. The control mechanism, that switch was flipped.
Yes.
And every country took the bait.
Absolutely. No, yes, I will say what shocked me was the speed and the incredible, impeccable international coordination that, like, clearly we got 200 sovereign nations on planet Earth, all right? And they almost all of them have mirrored each other in their response to this. How believable is that? And they all and in the most in like the English speaking nations, the British Commonwealth nations, I mean, that's obvious that they're all in lockstep with each other. You got the UK, you got Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, each trying to outcompete each other in totalitarianism. Those countries had a good run, but they're done. They're done. They've destroyed freedom in their societies. It's gone. And you see the complete domination of major media, the installation of massive fear among the global population, the fact that they're able to now have, I mean, in New York State, where I am living still, the governor has just authorized herself, or she's got authorization, whatever it is, to detain any individual based on whether they are a perceived threat for spreading a contagious disease. So that means they could take me, they could take my neighbor, they could take anyone, and say, "Yep, you're a danger, and we're going to move." I think they're doing this in Australia already, and now New York State wants to do it. So,
well, I don't want to.
How is this possible? But they're all doing it.
Well, and here's the crazy part. I don't want, in my living in fear, I don't want this show to be censored or shut down. So I am constantly, because of the bots that are running and scanning for language, and to have
sorry,
this.
I think I probably
No. But I'm addressing your point directly.
Yeah.
That even I have to recognize the line that shall not be crossed, because if it is crossed, then my voice is taken away from the conversation. And
think about this: YouTube has removed the dislike count, so you can't. You go to a YouTube video, you can't see how many people dislike it. We haven't even talked about how pernicious and evil that is. That's actually, I would say that's evil. You want to know why? It's evil because the dislike button was one of the few areas where people could actually voice, like ordinary people could voice their opinions on mainstream corporate propaganda. Right? So like when you take a YouTube account, YouTube, they'll push all the corporate BS on you, all the CNN and all that garbage, and people can dislike the hell out of it. They can dislike the White House YouTube account, which they love to do. And YouTube, like when Trump was president, it's like, yeah, go after him. But Trump didn't get the dislikes that Biden's White House YouTube channel was getting. Not even close. And so they trashed that. They ratioed the hell out of. They ratioed the hell out of CNN, which of course is corporate propaganda, government propaganda. And I think they just got tired of it. And they're like, we're going to remove the dislike feature to protect small operators. Like, yeah, who believes that? No, everyone knows that's a lie. It's just taking power away from people yet again. Just that simple thing. And what is YouTube? Private corporation owned by Google, owned by Alphabet, in bed with the national security state. We all know. So they're doing the work for them. That's evil.
It's been across the board, and anybody can just, it doesn't matter who you are or what you believe in or whatever. You can recognize and see what is going on, and it's on every level of it's on the internet, it's on television, and it's in the media, it's in the newspapers and print media. It's across the board, and you're right, it's lockstep. It's everybody is on board with this. Now, I just wanted to do this. I said I would do it live on the air. Race Hobbs just texted me and said, best show of the year, Happy New Year to Richard Dolan and to Jimmy Church, and please say Happy New Year for me. And I said, I'll do it right now on the air. So
there's another man that I love, that we love. Race is the best.
He's the absolute best. And that's another thing that happened in 2021. Race and the UNX network. I mean, just an incredible thing for this community to not only launch, but to go straight to number one so quickly. And I just thank Race Hobbs every single day, man.
I owe Race a phone call. Race, you're listening. You heard me.
Hold on. That's the other part of this. He doesn't return my phone calls, I think is in the text. No, I'm kidding.
We talk. I love that man.
And I owe Race, I owe you a phone call too. So there you go. I can't believe I haven't talked to Race through the holidays. And there you go. All right, Race. Which means he's listening to us right now, and I'm almost uncomfortable that it's being monitored. And so there you go. Okay, yeah, but with this, the surprise for me, though, is how this coverage has been, I'm talking about UAPs and UFOs, has been out there, but buried because of all the other fear headlines that are out there. And in any other year, Richard, we won, right? And it's been buried.
Well, ask yourself, is this an accident, or is this a coincidence or not? I mean, I'm not saying that they created a pandemic specifically to bury UFO information. I don't know. I mean, I do know, and you asked me when this started 2 years ago, did I think this was out of a lab? And I said yes. I remember
that. I do.
And I don't remember what your opinion was, but I knew mine right out of the gate. I was like, this came out of a level 4 bioweapons lab, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. And I still think that.
You know what I said then, and I still say it now. When I got the Rona, it felt mechanical, and it was a weird, a type of adjective to apply to this, but it felt mechanical. It felt deliberate.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It's been bioengineered.
It felt mechanical to me.
And I mean, it's one of the weirdest viruses. It really does do. I mean, now, the virus is doing what it's supposed to do, which is to mutate into a less virulent strain because the virus wants to survive. So in literally, it is becoming more and more analogous to a common cold. And that's not overstating the case. It's actually true. So it's much more transmissible than the previous strain. We know that, but it's clearly less virulent. All right. It's obviously less virulent. And, I mean, I'm not saying it's yet the common cold, but for many people it is, actually. For many people, it seems indistinguishable from that. So that's good. And we want that. Like, you want it to do exactly what it's doing. But the point is, it also is doing weird things long term. Like, we've heard about how it gets into the heart or the lungs or now the kidneys. I was just reading about this, or the brain. So there's weird things, or the reproductive system. Let's not forget that. I think it does seem to screw with a bad analogy. It seems to mess with our ability to reproduce. At least temporarily, maybe permanently, I don't know. So there's things about this virus that are weird. All right, it's not natural. This is there up in the lab.
Okay, so what if we look at nature? Let's put the Rona to the side for a second. I had just read a report today about I want to get this right. It was thousands of birds, just up and died from a virus. Now, is this just nature? Is this just the thinning of the herd? Is this just something that the planet goes through all of the biological systems on this planet, where things like this happen, you live through it, and then you come out on the other side? Whatever, if you're
no, personally, I think these are all human generated. Let's get real. We've completely remade the global ecosystem. We've put our imprint on the entire. We're one species. We're one species. We have absolutely terraformed so much of the world. We have pushed out so many natural species. Massive extinctions are happening now, right? We all know this, and yes, we're having a massive impact on the other populations that we live with, that we share this planet with. And so I don't know about this specific situation you're talking about with these cranes, but yes, I have to go on an assumption that, and I'm not saying it's all global warming. I'm just saying it's our human impact. We have an unnatural impact. We've created an unnatural society. We're not living in a natural world anymore. People can go through their entire day and not even see the sky or look at the stars. We don't live in a natural environment. So we've transformed this world in ways, and we just, I mean, obviously there's going to be repercussions of that.
How's it changed you?
How has what changed? The
coronavirus? The last 2 years.
Oh. Well, it is in many ways like my mind is looking into things at a deeper level than I've ever looked at before. I think living through what is a globalist revolution, because that is what we're living in.
And from a philosophical perspective?
Yeah, so I've gone into a lot of philosophical places in the last couple of years that I don't think I've ever even approached before. That's the truth, and that includes spirituality. I'm just going to say that to you and to the audience. It's a weird thing to say, but I'm in a vastly more spiritually focused direction than I've ever been in my whole life.
Previously being more analytical and pragmatic and black and white and not...
Well, I'm still that. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's all as a result of the COVID and the lockdowns. I mean, I dealt with... I lost both of my parents in the last few years. I had a lot of shakeups in the family that, got me thinking about mortality.
Right.
So there was that. But in terms of dealing with the pandemic and the big thing that I have seen is that we're in the midst of a very swift and well-coordinated globalist revolution. And the fact is that there are a lot of people who support this. And they're believers. They're believers in the revolution. They don't even know that it's actually a revolution, but they feel it's a revolution. They're jumping on. They want it. They want this. Well, we don't call it a new world order now. Now we call it global governance, I guess. You can't say new world order or one world government. They used to say that. But the idea is the same. Someone on my website, wrote to me and was very upfront about it. He says, look, I know you don't like Klaus Schwab and you don't like the Davos people, and I don't. But he said, look, if there's going to be a disclosure, and let's say there's aliens and they want to treat with a U.S. with human beings, how would they do it? They're going to have 200 countries? If they deal with the U.S., won't Russia get mad, or won't China get mad, or how will they do it? Maybe it'll be easier to deal with Klaus Schwab. And he gave me this question very seriously, and the thing is, when you're dealing with globalization, we live in a globalized world. Like, there's no getting out of it, all right? You and I were on Skype here doing a really great interview across the country. Couldn't do this without a globalized system. Wouldn't be possible. We do international calls all the time. Like, a whole system is designed that way. It's our world. So you need it to some extent. But the question is, do you need it to the extent that you're creating a centralized system now that is micromanaging the global economy, that is putting millions and millions of people out of work due to automation and algorithms that are now controlling your mind through controlling the internet? And do we want that? Do we want to turn our world into one big anthill? Like, no, I don't want that. So the question is, how do you walk that line? We want a global system to some extent, but I don't want to go all the way in so that I lose the last shred of any kind of autonomy that I have as a citizen of the United States of America, first of all, and secondarily, just as a sovereign human being that's got my own ideas. Like, I don't want to give that up. And I think that we're moving into a world where we're going to be giving that up. Because one of the things that we're seeing transformed is the global culture. And we're moving away, don't make no mistake, we're moving away from a culture of individual sovereignty and individual action. We're moving away from that. That's obvious. We're moving away from, God forbid that you believe in, that you distrust your government now. Can't even do that. You can't even you can't even question your government's motives anymore, because that's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, which was the exact opposite of the very foundation of the founding of this country.
Yes, I'm just not ready to give that up.
Which was that accountability and a government of and for the people. But check this out. Last week, I reported on this, and crickets, not only from the rest of the media, but even from this community, which was this, Richard, I'm not even sure if you're aware of this. Last week, Russia shut down the Tor network and the dark web.
I didn't know that.
That's
Thank you
right.
for telling me.
Write that down. Go and read. And they had their own reasons for doing it, and they publicly stated this. Okay, fine. But no media reported this.
No, and that's important.
Shut down the dark web.
You know, I am not one of these reflexive Russia bad people. Not at all. Never have been. I'm not a reflexive Putin bad person either. But that doesn't mean that they're not trying to do the exact same things that all the rest of the world is doing, which is consolidating power over the population. Absolutely, they're doing that. The Chinese are doing it. We know. The Russians are doing it. And the entire Western hegemonic bloc is doing it as well. Like, everyone's doing it.
There, you know that there are certain levels of control of the internet that are at the direct control of Washington, D.C. And it's at certain levels, right? Okay, all right. The dark web, I'm not saying it's good or bad. That's not what I'm saying. But the ability to shut it off is extraordinary. And to go and to do it and then to publicly state it, as big of a deal as that is, no media covered it.
That's amazing. That's like, and they hate Russia. That you think they would love to do it. But I'll bet you I know why. They're not going to cover it because it's going to happen here.
Yeah, that's my point.
That's it. Yeah, they're not saying anything because it's going to happen here.
That's exactly. And
let Russia do this one first. Okay, we'll give them this one.
Russia,
that's what they're thinking.
The country of Russia was 10% of dark web traffic. Right now, you would
serious? All global dark web traffic?
10%
was in Russia.
Yeah, 10% was within Russia. So you would think that even those users would go and speak up. It's so funny, the silence of
that's an internet kill switch, right?
Yeah, right there at 100%. Let's take our break. Let's get this in. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, our last guest of 2021, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. More with Richard. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When we come back after this short break, stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Richard Dolan. And after this tonight, Richard's going to get a cup of coffee and roll straight over to Coast AM. Oh, man.
I didn't mean for it to work out like that. It just happened.
Yeah, that's a long night, man. And at least you're getting warmed up. And hopefully George is listening to this, and you'll just get the same questions, and you'll be able to just go on autopilot. And that's a long night. But everybody, after the show tonight, head over to Coast to Coast and stay with all things Richard. It's a cool night. I wanted to ask you this, and I was watching the chat room and some of the questions of the audience, and one of them was this. I think I'm going to paraphrase here. How important is it for this UFO community to not relax, right? To sit on their hands now that it seems like things are moving forward, and you can how important is it that we just keep the foot on the neck of the man?
Wow, what a great question. Hey, I don't know if you're running your audio. I'm hearing my echo again. I may take my headphones off, but if you can fix
No, you sound, I'm just going to let you know, you sound great.
Goody. Oh, and it just got fixed. So I think that's a great question, and I fully agree with the sentiment. Like it would be a bad thing for people to be complacent right now. It would be very bad because I just think, look, any positive change is only going to happen if the people, that's us, continue to make as much noise as we can and keep a sophisticated adult level conversation going on this subject that does not get dominated by the Pentagon. Like we don't want the military industrial complex to be controlling this debate. That doesn't mean that the Navy doesn't have good people in it that believe in getting this information out. I know they do, but no, I would not ever want to trust the Washington bureaucracy, and that includes the political leaders and the political establishment, to do this without massive citizen oversight. People need to be engaged in this. As I've been saying, for a while now, we're in the middle of a global revolution. Everything is up for grabs right now, and a lot of things can go in a bad way for us if we are not vigilant in protecting our rights, first of all, and in not being afraid to speak up. And I'm not just talking about UAP and UFOs, but yes, absolutely with UFOs, but with everything. There's a lot at stake now, and the way this battle ends up, the current struggles that we are in, dealing with our fundamental freedoms, could determine the next several generations or more of human society. So I think what's going on now is really going to be very, very important for many years to come. And people have got to be brave. They've got to speak up, and we've got to be willing to be. It's difficult because people have lives to live, but we need to be on top of this as best we can.
Well,
I guess I'll say that.
It's our job, us, to force the information out of the man. The man is not our friend. The man is not going to just give it up. That's not going to happen. It is our job to get the information that belongs to us. Right? It belongs to this. It's our. It's not their information. It's our information, and we can't sit on our hands, and we can't expect them to just voluntarily step up and give it to us. It's not going to happen that way, is it?
No, and what we actually really need to fight for, I think, fundamentally, is the preservation of our basic rights. That is the right to speak freely. Probably first and foremost, the right to assemble freely.
Should we have a UFO, a UAP march? Should we assemble, at the Lincoln Memorial? Should we take things to the next level? Is that where everything seems to happen? Right, where we force it, we present this to Washington. Is that
there have
the
been
next
many
step?
attempts over the last 20, 30 years to do exactly that. Maybe you could say that maybe the time wasn't right. 30 years ago, there was a group called Operation Right to Know, and only UFO geeks like us, probably, and nerds know about it. But 30 years ago, they organized rallies in front of the White House. I think like 20 people were there with pickets and UFO secrecy. This has been a long-standing idea. And then, you get Stephen Greer's press conference in 2001, and you get Steve Bassett's ongoing X conferences all in the Washington, D.C. area that happened throughout the whole first decade of the 21st century, and culminating in the Citizens Hearing on Disclosure, which, a lot of us were part of. I was part of in 2013. And the ongoing press conferences at the National Press Club, involving, people like Robert Hastings and Robert Salas and Leslie Kean and James Fox and many others have been involved. Like, there's always been this attempt to go to D.C. to engage in the Washington political establishment. So it's not a new idea. But I do think, yes, it's always a good idea to think through this in a fresh way. Yes. So would a march be a good thing? Well, it depends on how many people you get. And keep in mind something, and I don't want to be defeatist here, but just keep in mind, there are massive, massive protests held around the world every day right now, all against the lockdowns primarily. And they get zero coverage in the Western media. They get ignored. So there's actually a lot of public citizen action going on all the time. And we're dealing, we don't have a genuine media anymore. You're the media, Jimmy. The major media, that is nothing other than a propaganda cheerleading section for the globalist revolution. That's it. And so if you find yourself on the outside of that, if you don't believe in the globalist revolution, guess what? You get pushed to the side. Like you don't become part of a conversation, of their conversation. It doesn't mean that you go away. It just means you're not part of their, so they still dominate the power structure. So that's the problem with that. So we could do a march, and it doesn't, it could be a great idea, actually. It just depends on how well it's organized, how many people you can get to be there, and can we create, or can a good record of it be created for posterity? Because that's going to be a big part of it as well.
Why do you think that CBS, 60 Minutes, Showtime, the UFO J.J. Abrams documentary, Tucker Carlson, Fox, have all chosen to cover this subject this year?
Well, they cover it in different ways. So like J.J. Abrams, my complaint about that UFO series that he did is that I almost felt like I got suckered by that thing. I felt like I got sucker punched by it. He starts you off by saying, hey, UFOs are real. You saw a UFO. You're not crazy. You actually saw one. And we're thinking, wow, that's awesome. And he goes on and says, yeah, and there is a cover-up. There's been lies about it. You've been lied to. So he brings you in, making you think, wow. And then what does he do? He says, yeah, they're all man-made, and there's no aliens, and there's no abductions. It's like, screw you, man. Like, you do that to us. What an insult. And you know what? That's going to be, I predict that's going to be the new, what you're supposed to believe. This is where I think the establishment wants to take this UFO subject. Now, other media people, I listened to Tucker Carlson on this, and of the major media people who touch this subject, he's by far the best. I think by far. Like all the mainstream, high-level national media figures, he clearly believes in UFOs. He's made it obvious. He's had some of the best, for mainstream, interviews that have been out there. I think his interview with Elizondo a couple of years ago is still the best one that was ever done. So he does good work as far as you can do it in the mainstream. A lot of the others,
well,
some of them are
60
good.
60 Minutes
Yeah.
was another moment this year that was an extraordinary step to have that show cover this subject. And it was great, but I have to always step back and ask why. Why the sudden interest? Is there another puppet master pulling the strings to make sure that this kind of stuff happens? Again, going back to Showtime and how they dealt with it.
I think we have puppet masters, yeah. I do. I think there are marching orders that come from somewhere. Now, it doesn't mean that it's like the cigarette-smoking man in the X-Files is like behind and says, okay, you're going to say this, you're going to do this. I don't think it's quite that crass. But I do think, we've dealt with mainstream media people. I've talked to them. You've talked to them. There are producers of these documentaries and these specials that I think they're genuinely interested in covering the subject. Usually you find they know nothing about it. Like they're at the beginning of a learning curve. So that's kind of scary to think about it. They really just don't know the subject. But yes, I do think that there's a certain amount of damage control and population control. Absolutely, I think that's the case to a lot of these. What would be more interesting is to ask, and I don't have the answer here, is to what extent there is genuine resistance within that environment, within the mainstream. Because I don't think it's totally monolithic. I do think that there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. I think by and large, it's a very effective control mechanism, basically public mind control. Yes, and but I do I mean, I get this sense, and I'm an outsider to that system, but I do get a sense that there are some people who are trying to push the envelope a little bit. So that would be good. How far can they push the envelope? Well, that's a good question. They obviously can't go as far as I would like them to go, or that you would like them to go, because they're not doing it. Like, it's just a matter of asking logical questions here. We've got a 75-plus year-long cover-up. For God's sake, 75 years, all right? There's been a lot of opportunity here for information to be gathered. I documented it as well as I could in my 2 volumes of history and my other books as well. Like, there's a very significant paper trail of declassified United States government military documents that prove, they don't hint, they don't suggest, they prove that there has been high-level concern and interest over these UFOs, including massive numbers of military engagements with these objects, going back to the 1940s. So they know that there's something important going on.
Is the next step something that surfaces either from either of these two or one, how it pans out, UFO groups, UAP groups inside of the Department of Defense and ODNI, or from the United States Navy, a statement that comes out and explains all of this, and none of it has to do with ET, and to absolutely squash the issue?
Yep. Yeah, I actually think that that's going to happen. I think that's where they're going to try to go. Because, I mean, there's a lot, that's the red line. There's a red line of disclosure. And the most important red line is admitting that there's been a conspiracy for all these years. I just can't see how that's going to be a viable option for anyone who's actually got this secret. We're in an era where you're not supposed to believe in conspiracy theories. It's hard to find a bigger conspiracy than the UFO cover-up. It's like it's at the top of the conversation. There's as I said before, there's COVID, there's 9/11, there's Kennedy, there's UFOs. All right, it's pretty damn big, and so. Imagine a society that's now telling you, Google, YouTube, all the basically the internationalist, globalist, neoliberal media, telling you conspiracy theory is bad, and they are explicitly doing this. It's quite like heavy-handed. And then, but for someone to say, "Oh well, yeah, but the UFO one, that's actually true."
Well, okay, so
that's not going to happen.
Exactly, and then we have the forces that Washington is definitely going to be up against. That is the James Webb Telescope that was just launched on Christmas, looking for extraterrestrial life on other planets. That's one of its jobs. And then you have Avi Loeb in the Galileo Project that is putting the scientific move on all of this. And if they come out, this is private, if they come out with something, it's going to be in direct contrast to what the Department of Defense is trying to have us believe.
Well, I don't think that they're a threat at all to the system. I suspect they've all been co-opted. I mean, look, I don't know Avi Loeb. I got nothing against him. But he's not looking for UFOs per se. He's not talking about cover-ups and conspiracies. They're talking about life out there. So that's nice and safe.
Well, Avi's goal is to look at stuff inside of our atmosphere. You know, that's his thing, and to figure out where it is coming from, and that's it. That's his stated goal. It's not
so to look for anomalous
inside of our atmosphere.
Inside of the atmosphere. Okay. Well, good. He's like a new James McDonald. Then let him do it. That would be great. James McDonald was an atmospheric physicist.
Yeah, absolutely, he was. And
so amazing.
I asked Avi directly on this program last week. I said, "What if you relive the movie Contact? Right? You something happens, and you've got this, and then suddenly the government comes in and says this is our information, and it doesn't get released public." And his answer is, no, we are absolutely independent, and we will do our assessments, and we will publish our findings independent of what the government wants us to do with it. And that
he'll deal with the smear machine as like everyone else, but good. Hopefully he can do that.
Now, what if the James Webb Telescope gets images of, cities and lights on another planet, right? I mean, like the real deal.
All right, well, what if? Are they going to have the ability to do that? I mean, what planet in another solar system?
That's it will be the deepest. They will be able to look at that. This is how deep that the James Webb has designed to go. We've only been able to peer back a certain length of time, 13.8 billions of years, right? Okay, and we can only peer back so far. They will be able to look at the first 20% of the creation of the universe. That is peering deeply into the universe. Amazing. Yes.
Well, we've got this interesting contradiction or possible two different forces that are in our world now that are probably going to continue for a while. So one of the forces is our greater and greater ability as a society to just learn new things and to obtain important information. I mean, it started with, the creation of the internet, the web, that liberated the human race, essentially, in a way that had not been imaginable before, so that we could share information with each other in a revolutionary way. And what we are now seeing is a rolling back of that freedom. That's explicit. So we're seeing control, centralization, and surveillance, and all of that's happening as well. So to basically turn the world back in to the 1980s before there was a web, or a version of the web that's controlled, like your TV was back in the 1980s. I think that's what they're trying to do. So the question is, who's going to win that? Because if we can continue to maintain our genuine freedom to investigate and share information, then what's going to happen eventually is there will be a way to obtain independent, unarguable proof of a cover-up and of the reality of this phenomenon. Somehow, I don't know what the technology will be, but somehow it'll happen. I do believe it. Unless, before we get to that point, there is a complete global lockdown of information by central authorities over what is permissible conversation in a society.
Is this
how we're seeing that as well?
And I'm going to magically steer this into after this AD part 3. Is this an evolution of AD after disclosure, and how you are going to approach it in this next volume? Because that sounds like how you would view what the world is like post-disclosure now.
Well, okay, so I'm not at the moment planning a revision of AD after disclosure, but you're thinking of UFOs in a national security state. So for the third volume of that, I will definitely be talking about these issues. I've been talking about them in some of the other books. I just discussed it to an extent, I think, in the book I wrote last year, The Alien Agendas. But yes, when I co-authored AD After Disclosure with Bryce Zabel, that book was in 2010.
I know.
And my God, it just is incredible. I think we got a lot of things prescient. We actually did see a lot of things. But one thing I didn't see, I'll speak for myself here. In 2010, you could still think, oh, YouTube's free. Facebook, free. It was at that time. The clampdown didn't really start until around 2015, I'm thinking. And then it happened so swiftly. It happened so fast. So the thought that I was having back in 2010 and 2011, when we did a revision of the book in 2011, was that it's an inevitability that our society is able to generate the capability of ferreting this out and making it provable. And that we're going to force the government, the United States government particularly, into having to make an admission, because it's going to have to happen. So the only question is, how will it happen and when will it happen? And that really was what I believed. Now, back then, I didn't think it was going to happen within the next few years. I didn't think, disclosure's around the corner. I really never believed that. But I did believe that it was going to happen at some point, and probably that in my lifetime, there would be a good chance that I'd live to see it. I did actually. I was willing to think that 11 years ago. What I didn't foresee, like I could see that we were moving toward a global totalitarian system. Even then, like I used to talk about it. I gave a lot of lectures at various conferences, and I remember I talked about this very explicitly, that what we were going to look at was the attempt of the global system. And I said this in 2011, 2012 at the latest, that the global system would try to beat us to the punch and to create a kind of a global lockdown of the mind. And the biggest surprise to me was how fast it happened. That's the thing I have to admit, like I didn't see it happening so, like almost with the snap of a finger. It was just like boom, and we're now so deep into that. And I guess, had I really thought about it, I guess I could have thought, a pandemic would be the greatest pretext toward doing it. What would be the pretext? That's a perfect pretext. Scare the hell out of people. I mean, scare them to death, and use that as an excuse to keep everyone safe. And we're just going to have to monitor you for the rest of all time now.
And what's a post-disclosure world now when you're dealing with, national security state volume 3 and knowing what has transpired in the last 4 years since 2017? I can't believe, Richard, that we are now talking about this 4 years later. And it's been great. It's been a fun ride, but we haven't had disclosure in the last 4 years.
We're so far.
Yeah.
And there's so many things to discuss about disclosure. It's not just, are aliens here? Good grief, that's just where the conversation begins, right? Then we got to start asking, okay, let's before we even get into the aliens, it's like, let's look at our own society and ask, how have we completely screwed over our society and created a criminal system to hide this secret? So in other words, how have we undermined academia, undermined our media, undermined our political system? Like, that's an important conversation. And then let's talk about the black budget world, the world of criminal, I'm calling it criminal, secrecy away from our elected representatives, at least the people who are supposed to be representing us, Congress. Like all of that, okay? The privatization of this secret. And then let's start talking about what's the technology that we've been hiding? How could that maybe help us out a little bit here in this world? And then who are these other beings? Like that's the ultimate. And what are they doing? We're so far away. And then abductions. What is the purpose of the abduction phenomenon? Like those of us who've been studying this, we've got some ideas. I've got some ideas. I've been very deeply going into the abduction phenomenon in this last couple of years. And that's a very important conversation. And then even beyond that, like, are there one group or is there more than one group? Have they infiltrated? Do they monitor us? Do they manipulate us? We've got to ask that. Any reasonable person who comes to the conclusion they've been here for at least a century, you've got to ask, have they been doing things to our society? That's a logical question. That's not a crazy question. That's a logical question.
Is it
and
just
we haven't begun to ask these questions.
Is it just an endless, fragmented, moving Fibonacci sequence, right? that you're not going to get to the bottom of?
Well, we're getting it. Yeah, there's many, many layers of this secret. This is why, like, I just roll my eyes when I hear these skeptics think, oh, well, they, as if this is some simple question to resolve. Like, are you kidding me? I just think you don't have the slightest idea of what you're talking about. This is a subject that has layer upon layer upon layer of secrecy and implications for our very existence. Like, are they walking among us? Like, that sounds ridiculous to someone who doesn't study the subject, but not to someone who has studied it.
Now, I know you've got Coast to Coast coming up, and I'm going to let you go. But I want to ask you one last question. And you and I talked about this privately a few months ago, but I'm going to ask you in a public version of it. The person that you were investigating this and your view of this 15 years ago to the version that you are today, how much have you changed?
I've personally changed quite a bit. in 15 years. 15 years ago, I was pretty well known in the UFO field at that point. What was it, 2006? So yeah, I was very engaged. People knew me. My attitude about the UFO subject, even then, I was always someone who. It's funny because people would say, "Well, you're a historian, and this is what you do." But like my attitude is, I've always been seen myself as a bit more than a historian. Yes, I am a historian of this subject, and that's important. But I've always thought about philosophical implications of this phenomenon in every way imaginable. And back then, I was exploring it. I just think I explore it more.
Were you more
implications now?
Naive is the right word. Do you look back and think, man, I was just a little bit naive on this compared to where I am today and what I have learned?
Yeah, I don't know about in 2006. I don't know if I would call myself naive then. Where I was naive was when I started researching this phenomenon, and I didn't believe in big conspiracies. I believed in little conspiracies, yes, corruption, things like that. But back in the late 90s when I was like wrapping up my first book, that was actually my education and thinking like, holy crap, like, is this a global conspiracy? So I would say I was a bit naive going into my first book, but I think researching that book educated me. I'm sure, like if I would have to sit down and think, but there's been a lot that I've learned since in the last even 15 years. But I think, what I was just saying earlier was maybe the biggest shocker. I saw a coming global kind of quasi-fascist system coming into place, but I didn't see it happening this fast or this soon.
Richard, thank you so much, man. Happy New Year.
It was a pleasure.
Happy New Year. Give my best to Mr. Norrie, and
I will. It'll be the first thing I say on Coast.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jimmy Church says hi.
And listen, we discussed earlier, we have some conversations that we're going to have in the next couple of days. So get some rest after tonight, and then we'll catch up over the weekend, my friend. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. And a big hello to all the Fadernauts.
Thank you so much, Richard.
And there's some of my folks out there listening too. So.
Absolutely. All Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Give my best to Tracy, man. Happy New Year.
You bet. Thank you.
Richard Dolan. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And I've got to let Richard go brew some coffee, get ready for Coast to Coast AM. And I am going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back and open up the phone lines. Richard, behave and be well, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church, and I personally invite you to the 2022 Conscious Life Expo this February 4th through the 7th, live at the LAX Hilton in Los Angeles, California. This year, we have the most exciting speakers, including Linda Moulton Howe, Jacques Vallée, Whitley Strieber, Adam Apollo, Billy Carson, Daryl Anka and Bashar, William Henry, Caroline Corey, Susan Slaughter, Daniel Brinkley, Sarah Breskman Cosme, George Norrie, Gail Thackeray, and many, many more. I will be hosting all weekend long, including the keynote Ancient Secrets panel on Friday night, 5 vendor and exhibit halls, 3 floors of speakers, panels, and celebration. This is the biggest event of the year, and early bird passes are available now. Just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com for the schedule, speakers, and information. That's ConsciousLifeExpo.com. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Richard Dolan. That was a great conversation. It was a perfect conversation. Way to wrap up the year. And deep. And lots of nuggets in that conversation. Now, I wanted to say this. Phone lines are open, 747-228-2051. Got time for a couple of calls. Richard Bleepin' Dolan, where did that name come from? Where what's the progenitor of all of that? And I've talked about this before, but there are many people that tuned in tonight that have heard it, that use or some get offended by it. I always get the emails after. How can you do that, man? How can you call him Richard Bleepin' Dolan? It came from Richard and I talking somewhere and in person, and it was a joking thing that started to happen between us. And one morning, I came out of my hotel room with some coffee and had a table out there, and Richard is there. And I walked up and said, "Well, it's Richard," and I used the F word, and he laughed, and he goes, "I am," and we joked about it then, and so for the next few days, we greeted each other that way, and that's where it started, and so probably, I don't know, it's probably 7 years ago or so on this show, I did it, but I said bleepin', and we laughed about it because before that show started, I said, "Man, I'm going to say Richard effing Dolan," and he goes, "Go ahead, man, go ahead, do it." And of course I didn't. I keep the show clean, but that's where the bleepin' started, the effing started, and okay, so I want to back up. And that all revolved around this sighting that Richard and I had together. And when we were watching this, the language that came out of Richard, I was like, "Wow, whoa," and that was it. I was like, "Man, Richard, you can swear like a sailor." Man, I'm just normal, and so that's where all of that came from. So for all of you out there and are wondering how I could offend Richard in such a way by addressing him that way, it happened between friends many years ago, and now it is a term of endearment and of affection, and that's where it comes from. So I want to thank Richard Bleepin' Dolan for a great conversation tonight, knowing that he's got a long night in front of him. Fade to Black, and then right after the show tonight, he's over on Coast to Coast. So there you go. With that, let's go to the phones. Let's see who's up. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's me, Paul, from south of Michigan.
Hey, Paul from south of Michigan. How you doing, man? How'd you like the conversation with Richard?
He's great. I just wanted to say my little 2 cents for tonight. And, hey, Happy New Year. Best wishes of all the Patriots. I lived in Guam for 3 years, and I met a lot of Australians. They are a little bit more, they got some pep in them. A lot of them tell me they love America, just like a lot of Russians I met over there. Guam was interesting. A lot of Koreans and a lot of Filipinos over there, a lot of cultures over there, a lot of Russians visit there. Anyhow, the Russians love us too. They told me. I lived there for 3 years. But I wanted to let you know that, I'm feeling that what you guys are saying, like Richard was saying, but like the Australians, they're going to fight back. A lot of these countries are going to fight back. They're just kind of laying low, letting COVID take its course, out of precaution. But, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. But, and these guys, a lot of ones I talked to, especially in the Philippines, I was over there, and the Australians, they're all about the UFO community. They're always asking me. Even the Filipinos were very interested. Like, I didn't even bring it up. It's like, whoa, I'm at like a party. My wife's from there. I lived in the Philippines for a year, been there 4 times. They were like, hey, why are all you Americans talking about UFOs and stuff? And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I was kind of struck. This was like about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, wow, these guys know about all that stuff, so that's cool. I can say I was in the military. I called in a few times. Now, I was talking to the chat group, and it's like I said, it's hit and miss because I personally, like I called in before, I saw a lot of UFOs when I was in Iraq. I lived in Korea for 6 years, only saw a few. In the 3 years I lived in Guam, I never saw any. But I wonder if that's because that's where they train. You see a lot of nice planes out there. The stealth bombers and stealth fighters regularly train over there. You see them fly right over Truman Bay in Guam. And, I've been to like 30 states and 30 countries, but I'm trying to think. In the Philippines, I was there in the year I lived there, and I've been there 14. I never saw any over there either, but they're more into like your mystical creatures, chupacabra kind of thing. They call it the chuk and the flying. They believe in like I think it's like the same as the Native Americans in America. They believe in we call them Thunderbirds. They call it like the Wasuk or the chuk. They just believe they're like flying people with big bats. But I think there's some commonality in that with what people were talking about with the Mothman. But hey, Jimmy, I wanted to say great show as always. I'll try to call in tomorrow too. But Happy New Year, brother. You're amazing. And hey, I was bringing up in the chat, I hope you can get on Joe Rogan's show. I think you and Christina Gomez, and you bring in Jesse Ventura and, George Noy. You guys, you do all your homework. You would throw Joe for a loop. You and Joe would get along so great. I wonder if you ever thought about it. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that too. But,
all right.
You're amazing, Jimmy. I love you, brother. God bless you. Happy New Year to you and your family. I wish you the best and all the Fader Knots. And thank you, brother, I grew up in Detroit, but like I said, I'm south of there now. But thanks so much, brother.
Thank you so much, Paul, and Happy New Year to you too as well. I really appreciate the phone call. And Joe Rogan, I don't know if there's a whole lot for us to talk about, but I can't predict the future. So, I'll just leave that right there. But it's not for me. The one thing that I agree with Richard about is that it's not. Rona is real. I mean, there's that part of it. How, what, when, and where. That's a whole nother conversation, and maybe we'll find out someday. But it's not about that. For me, and back to Richard's point, and I've talked about it many times on the show, it's just amazing to me that the entire planet, every country, everywhere, everything got into lockstep and was coordinated. I mean, it is mind-blowing with zero resistance. That level of control and how it was done. And when we talk about conspiracies, I'll just stay on this for a minute. When we talk about conspiracies and the idea of could this actually happen, and it goes back to George Orwell and some of these other concepts that have been presented and written about and discussed for decades, that is it possible for everyone to go complacent? It was always no. Now it was fun to talk about. It was fun to read about. It's fun to make movies about it, and all of this was laid out there. But I don't think any of us saw this coming, and the possibility of it, and what I think, and that those that are in control, and it's not just one thing. I'm just talking about specifically the media and governments, that this level of control could happen so quickly and easily. That's the part for me where I just step back and go, whoa. That's the part. I'm putting everything, because it's not one specific thing, and that's the crazy part. It's jobs, it's money, it's the transportation industry, it's sports, it's entertainment, shipping, it's hospitals, healthcare. Everything was affected. in every country, everywhere around the world. There isn't a citizen on this planet, not a one, that wasn't affected. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. And this is the part that scares me the most. Those that wondered if they could implement this type of control now have their answer. It can be done, and it can be done quickly and efficiently. When I say quickly, I'm talking about nanoseconds here. I'm not talking about if you turn back the clocks and this type of control and the idea behind, and you go back to the 1950s, 1960s, 1900s, 1800s, 1700s, the year zero, it's slow. It's a slow process. It takes months, years. This happened like that. Nanoseconds. Immediate. Crazy. It's just a crazy thought. It is absolutely crazy. And I just, I was talking to somebody earlier today about this on the phone. A friend of mine who's in the hospital. I'll talk more about this in a few days after he gets out. Is that I just want this over, and I just want to get back to some kind of normalcy, and I want to get back to moving forward because it's just been stagnant, like a dirty pond, stagnant, and that's where I'm at. All right, with that. Let's see who's up next. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. It's Deb from Sacramento.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you doing after your tea cleanse? What day did you finally end that, hon?
That was a while ago, a week ago.
Well, yeah, because, on Christina's show Thursday, you said you were in the middle of it, and it was going to go through the next day, so I'm assuming it ended Friday for you.
Okay. And the reason for you asking is?
Is because obviously you did it for health reasons and maybe some weight loss reasons, but also I want to know what was the first delicious thing that you got to eat.
No, I ate through it all.
I drink. On her show, you said you weren't. On her show, you said you weren't eating, and that you were on edge because you had not been eating.
But yeah, maybe I said that, and maybe at that moment that might have been the case. I drink the tea all year long. I drink it almost every day. So this time around specifically, I doubled the concentration of the brew and then cut the water in half. So it was like 4 times as strong. And
the bathrooms were very necessary.
Well, and the reason and the reason why I felt the need to do that is I came off of a week. Oh man. Okay, this is what happened. I catered.
Debbie asked a good question. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want to hear this.
But I just, my private life is private. So I keep everything private. Nobody knows anything. But I'll say this. I catered a large amount of Italian food. And so the catering came in and it arrived. And I had trays of meat lasagna. I had trays of chicken Alfredo. I had trays of spaghetti. I had meatballs. I had pizza. I had bread and I had all this food. So anyway, I love to eat. So after all of that, I tried to give away as much of it as I could. But so I did like 3 or 4 days of my favorite foods, and I couldn't stop eating. And I was like, man, I gotta cleanse. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so that's
I
the reason.
Get it. Get it.
Yeah, there were no underlying health issues or reasons to do it. No, it's just that I did a week of gorging, and it was good.
Yes. Well, that was your time off, and you were allowed to finally, and I'm glad that it was for a fun reason. My miracle over Christmas was I had mentioned over Thanksgiving when we talked that night that I had gone for 5 months so far with no sugar in my diet. And I've been doing high protein, low carb for months and months now. And it's been extremely beneficial for me. I mean, I'm back at my goal weight. I feel great. I've got so much energy. The biggest favor I've done myself is cut sugar out of my life, unless it's natural sugar, like from fruit for smoothies and things. But, gosh, now I digress. So over the Christmas holiday, my goal was eat what you want in moderation, but don't gain any weight. And I didn't gain a single ounce. So that was my Christmas miracle. So that's why I was interested to see what was the first delicious thing you got to eat.
All right. No, the delicious, the delicious things have continued. So you know what I did today, though? Christina Gomez, if she's listening, she's a bad influence. So Christina wrote this article today. Or was released.
The UFO noodle.
Yeah, in the debrief. So I read that and I went, man, I want some ramen. So, and the show's at its end, so I'm going to make this really quick. So I went and made ramen, but I made it with jumbo shrimp. And a little bit too much shrimp. But anyway, so that's what I did today, and it was delicious. Chicken ramen, and chicken broth, you use that for everything. I don't care if you're cooking beef, seafood, pork, vegetables. It doesn't matter. Chicken broth is the correct base of everything. So shrimp straight in over the top, and that was my day. So that
sounds a lot better than ramen and chili, Jimmy. Because when you talk about ramen and chili, I throw up a little bit in my mouth.
No. Ramen and chili with Parmesan cheese is the most delicious thing in the world. Far surpasses shrimp and ramen. Chili, ramen, and Parmesan cheese.
Not buying it.
Well,
hey, tomorrow night, real quick, I know you got to go. Tomorrow night, I'm going to give you a heads up. If you get me through, I've got a short Christmas musical challenge for you. But the hint that I'm giving you, a heads up I'm giving you, is it's about the special Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I'm going to have 5 questions surrounded about that special, that show, because you mentioned you like that show, and that's why I sent you that little elf that sings the song from Rudolph. So if you let me talk to you tomorrow night, I'm going to have a little trivia thing for you, and get ready for it, because it's going to be super fun, I promise.
Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, our last show of the year. Thank you so much, Deb. Right on.
Fade to black.
Fade to black. That's what I'm talking about. And with that, I've got to get out of here. That is Pole to Pole. And there you go. Thank you so much, Richard Bleepin Dolan. Great show tonight. Great way to end the year with our last guest for 2021. Tomorrow night is Fader night. Thursday night, the night before New Year's Eve, it's open lines with all of you. We're going to celebrate together. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitola, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night's Fader night. It's our last show of 2021. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.